You too?
Yeah. Yes.
Great. So, Esther, let's talk about fear.
Hmm.
One of the biggest challenges of my own personal life. Uh, it has a deep root that I would say emanates from childhood. And many people, they may put a brave mask on, social mask on, not to show it, but throughout the years, I've seen that fear is the root cause of many sufferings that manifest itself in daily life of people. So, how do you manage or how do you challenge and control fear and have it under your control?
Fear has so many layers, I find, because our whole societal construct is based on fear. When
That's so
you
true.
when you are plunged into separation, and we all have this illusion that we are this individual who needs to survive on this planet, then already that separation implies fear because I need to defend
That's so
myself,
true.
my family. I need to survive. I need to compete. All of these elements are there. And yes, I would preface, and you are a great practitioner of homeopathy and other alternative medicine. So I would preface this whole talk that humanity's nervous system is in a very, very bad state because we do not have time. Yes, we rush.
Mhm,
We are achieving.
mhm,
We are moving
mhm,
outward with our senses.
mhm,
So all we are doing
mhm.
is managing our compulsions and fears. Yes. And
Yeah.
so when I would assume when you stepped onto this spiritual path, and I don't want to spiritual path in um, a religious sense in any way, but spiritual path for me is a path of evolution. It's a subjective evolution of a person, and we understand that fear is implied first of all in your conditioning at home in a family setting.
Mhm.
Fear is also implied in the school system and how people interact with each other. And because if identity always tries to protect itself. So
Yeah.
I would go to the level of I would go to the level of the lower three chakras. And yes,
Hmm.
the Chinese system, the Indian system, and many other systems refer to energy, subtle energy centers. And this has been
Hmm.
proven. You can even play around with it scientifically. And the lower three chakras are connected to fear. And humanity,
Right.
from
Hmm.
around 99% of humanity, is living off of these, from, not off, from these chakras. So the first one would be the root, which is survival, existential survival. So
Hmm.
we're already coded
Hmm.
through many, many, hundreds of years of wartime. That's all in your cellular memory.
Hmm.
So that's the root chakra, survival,
Yeah.
which was also
Hmm.
connected to famine, scarcity, danger. And then that's connected to your
Hmm.
reptilian brain of the fight and flight mechanism. And then the second would be your sacral center, which is your um, center of creative power. Also, all of your sexual
Hmm.
organs are there, and the health of your sexual organs is also the health of how you relate to the world and yourself. It's very interesting.
Hmm.
So again, procreation of I need to procreate and create tragedy in order to, if I get killed, then. But also there is a natural impulse of procreation, no problem. And then from that impulse of procreation, there's a lot of power
Hmm.
dynamics between people. Not a lot of
Hmm.
us are open to pure relating. Intimacy is not
Hmm.
just an element of sex, and intimacy is weighed down by our fear impulse, which we would call the
Yeah.
thanatos impulse, the death impulse, because you want to protect yourself. And true relationship, whether it be with another or God, is the relationship of dissolution. You dissolve
Mm.
into the other,
Yeah.
ideally
Wow. Wow.
dissolving.
Yeah.
But if there is that fear, you cannot
Hmm.
dissolve. Then what
It's a
you
blockage.
it's a blockage. And then what is there? A power dynamic. I need to tell you my truth. I need to be right to feel safe. Well, that doesn't work this way. And then the third,
Yeah. Well
and I'm just
said.
like
Yeah.
touching very, very fast. I'm touching
Yeah.
on different elements of these power of these centers. And then the last that I want to mention, which is before we entered the heart space, the sacral, I mean the solar plexus center, which is your personal power. And through
Hmm.
indoctrination, through our school system, through our health system, through our family relations, we have been
Yeah.
usually groomed to be fully disempowered. And when I work with clients, that is the one point which is one of the major centers of karmic blocks. It's
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
your solar plexus, which some traditions place it underneath the belly button. The Hindu tradition places it above the belly button. And
Hmm.
it's usually completely thwarted. It's not working. And most fear there comes from your
Hmm.
illusion of wanting to control everything, wanting to control. And so control is this element of the ego. Ego equals control. The ego doesn't
Hmm.
feel safe when it's not in control. So I fear,
That's right. Hmm.
then I control, and then what do you give away from controlling? Your power. Because you're assuming already that power is not fully innate.
Yeah.
Power is here. I don't need to impose, let's say it's such a beautiful analogy. And how many of us, when we are in a relationship, because we have created some level of intimacy with our partner,
Hmm.
we try to control them. And sometimes we have these gnawing thoughts of, oh, what if they cheat on me? I'm needing
Hmm.
to check in, ask, call, and be on them because they have signed up for this intimacy with me. So I need to control them whether they are truly satisfying all of my expectations of that intimacy. And then that fear can be so overwhelming. Yes.
And destructive.
And completely destructive of the relationship, completely. So fear is our first sabotage element. And just
Yeah. Sabotage. Yeah.
sabotage, self-sabotaging element. And I would actually ask every one of us to start self-inquiring, in what ways do we
Hmm.
power or way to fear?
Absolutely. You mentioned an illusion, like fear is just an illusion that uh, always keep you in that state of duality. You cannot be in a state of oneness with the whole universe with, and have fear there too. Fear always that create that duality in mind, and it's just based on internal illusion, something that you make up in your psyche. And as you said, and you become hungry for power to control the situation or to prevent certain things that are just uh, fragment of your hallucination. It's not even imagination. It's just something that controls you. And as a result of that, creates suffering, suffering for yourself and people around you, most importantly, your partner. Now, the question is, how do you manage fear? Because being a human and fear is one of the elements that we have to deal with as a human being. You cannot say that you kill fear. You cannot destroy it. It's always available, accessible, and it's hormonal too. So, uh, what are the tools? Uh, mm, what helps you?
This is a very complex question, and as we talked before, there is not one solution for everyone. So
Of
yes,
course.
you're asking what is specifically working or what had worked for me.
Yeah.
And for me, what had worked is this fire for truth.
Hmm.
First of all, the fire in my soul for truth, to finding out. Um, some say once you awaken to the love that is all pervasive, you could call it pure consciousness and you can call it God.
Hmm.
What is the opposite of love? It's fear, actually. Right?
Absolutely.
Even
Yeah.
even a person who is angry, underneath that anger is sadness, and underneath that is fear. So, and,
100%.
and apathy. So, if we look at Dr. Hawkins's table of consciousness, what worked for me? It's a progress. It doesn't happen right away. The only thing that I would say works is a slow, gradual openness to deconstruct who you think you are. And you can do it in a myriad of ways.
Yeah. Hmm.
So yes, you can do it through therapy. I personally do not resonate with talk therapy because it's in the domain of the mind. So the mind can understand many things. And it
Hmm.
thinks, oh, now I understand where my fear is coming from and all of my psychological impediments. I understand. So what? Understanding is still just feeding the fear. I
Hmm.
used to be an academic and I seem to understand so many things, but what I've seen is that nothing worked in my life. So, what started working
Hmm.
is that I started accessing my problems through an energetic level.
Hmm.
And some ancient practices really help that. For example, Kriya Yoga is not asana.
Hmm.
It's not doing these exercises that when you go to yoga classes, I mean, those are
Hmm.
not yoga classes, they're just movement classes or whatever you would
Yeah.
call it in the West. Kriya Yoga specifically starts unplugging your central channel through breath
Hmm.
visualization, and
Hmm.
that energetic focusing of your inner creational force starts opening this body. It's a body hologram. You're
Yeah.
fluctuating energy, and
Hmm.
and and you're piercing through these densities that have been uh, imposed on this body vehicle. It could be from many lifetimes. It could be also from this lifetime, and
Hmm.
they're looping. So notice you're a certain age. I would actually say 35 onwards. If you have situations repeating in your life and you're looping in them,
Hmm.
it means that you have energetic blockages that are most of
Right
the
on.
time subconscious. They're very subconscious. And some of these direct exercises of controlling your breath, and it's not this new fashioned breath work because they're not even
Hmm.
teaching you how to use use your body in order to fluctuate breath properly. It causes more of psychosis in my understanding. So you need to use your body properly in order to know how to do breath work. So breath work, visualization of force, and sometimes you can also direct it through a pose. So that helped me a
Yeah.
lot. It actually removed a lot of energy that
Yeah.
was stuck in my body. Another one was just sitting in meditation. I know a lot of people would say, "Oh, I can't meditate. It's too much for me."
Yeah. It's very commonly said. Yeah.
Yes. And it's because people, so when I guide my clients, when you have built up,
Hmm.
it's called presence or loving awareness, you can allow them to sit in that presence,
Hmm.
imbibe it, and they automatically harmonize with their true nature.
Hmm.
And then when you start calming down the mind space, and the mind is the whole body, it's not just your brain, your
Hmm.
entire mind is the body space.
Hmm.
You have to go beyond thoughts,
Hmm.
emotions, feelings, sensations in order to have a bit of a distance so that
Right.
you would get to this place of uh my breath is automatically slowing down. You're not even doing anything. And you dare to, because a lot of people don't even dare to, just observe the chaos that the field of the mind is creating for them
Yeah.
to actually pierce through the looping.
Right. Yeah,
So
exactly.
these meditation was one of them. Of course, everybody could, maybe what I'm talking about for a beginner is a little bit of a woo-woo. But for example, just plug into this feeling when you go for a huge run
Hmm.
and you get tired, but in a very pleasant way.
Hmm.
Your mind, your feelings, it just there's this neutrality about you.
Right.
And that can be achieved through meditation. Sometimes you can start with guided
Hmm.
meditations, or
Hmm.
with a practitioner who has attainment of that
Right.
peace.
Yeah.
And you start plugging into your own intelligence. I would just call it a remembrance.
Yeah, that's a nice keyword. Absolutely. And one of the things that personally helped me, as you said, you cannot prescribe one method for everyone. So each individual has to see what clicks, what works for that specific individual. One thing that helps me a lot is a mantra, saying mantra at that state of when the negative thoughts comes in, when I have a negative thought, uh, quickly, as you said, the word remembrance, just I remind myself to say the mantra. In Sufism, they call it zikr. And saying the zikr or saying the mantra, which you pick a word, and that word is has so many inner meaning to it. And you keep repeating it as many times as you can, and you align your breath with repentance of that word. And you quickly find yourself dismantling, detaching yourself from all those negative emotions, and which they are all uh, rooted in fear. And meditation is the big one, I would say. Meditation is one of the foundational work that you can do to help yourself. It even changes the pH of your body from acidic to alkaline. Before meditation, when you do a proper breath work, as you said, then after that, it helps your CSF, the cerebral spinal fluid. It even helps the movement of CSF in your spinal cord. So relaxation of the nerves depend on that. Uh, I found saying mantra helps a lot. For the past 22 years, I'm practicing homeopathy. And throughout the years, I had so many cases, and I'm going to use two of them as an example. Asthma and constipation, like chronic constipation and asthmatic cases. I would say from different age categories, from a child with asthma all the way to adult with asthma, and same thing with constipation. So if you take the age factor out, one of the things that we focus on in homeopathy is the individualization of the case. We cannot prescribe uh, one remedy to every single case. So if I have 7 cases of chronic constipation, I cannot give them laxative. Uh, I mean, maybe the conventional medicine, they just uh, give you something that medication that act like a laxative, but in homeopathy, we try to find the root cause of the problem. And to find the root cause, you have to focus on individualization of the medicine, in individualizing the case. So I I see that in asthma cases or in chronic constipation cases, you have certain individuals that when you dig in through their past medical history and then the psyche and the mental state where they are and how they react to their daily challenges, fear is one of the root causes of those cases. I had people that they were on puffers. Imagine, again, I'm using this as an example. You have 7 cases of asthma, and all of them, they're on the similar medications, puffers and anti-inflammatory medications. However, when you look into their mental state, where they are as a conscious being, then you see that in some of the cases, it's just an allergic reaction. That asthma is an allergic reaction to environment. It's seasonal. But in chronic cases, when you dig in and find what is really causing that issue, fear plays a huge role. And you cannot obviously prescribe one method or one practice to everyone. But I would say, as you said, meditation, breath work, mantra, remembrance of what is true. Just remind yourself of truth. That helps a lot.
And I mean all of these, yes, the breath work, the mantra. I mean,
Hmm.
mantra is a quantum, it's a quantum science. It
Hmm.
is age-old quantum science because it is applying sound, and we are made of, first of all, sound and then light.
Hmm.
Sound was the first and then light. And then when you are actually introducing that frequency vibration into the body through the mantra, it
Hmm.
starts realigning your hologram with the divine hologram. That's mantra.
Wow.
And also, of course, manas means the mind,
Hmm.
uh, which is usually built from the ahamkar, which is the ego. This
Hmm.
is the whole science of Hindu philosophy, and and the mind, according to them, needs to be uh, controlled,
Hmm.
and mantra controls the mind's lunacy.
Hmm.
Um, I find that remembrance is one of the major ways you can change your life. You know,
Yeah.
this paradigm nowadays of conscious
Hmm.
creating, truly like removing obstacles from your life. There's a lot of talk about that lately, and we are doing that too.
Hmm.
But a lot of the practices do not allow you to go deep enough. And
Hmm.
I find that when you talked about the spinal fluid,
Yeah.
the spinal fluid starts actually naturally activating, which I called it previously the pranic channel.
Hmm.
So prana moves up, that's prana, and it's going down, it's apana. So
Hmm.
what happens is that our spinal fluid is usually moving downwards. When we project our five senses solely outward, meaning that I control my environment because I have five senses that show me what's happening in the outside world,
Hmm.
and I am reacting to that outside world.
Are you talking about the eye of ego or eye of your higher self?
Right now, just ego.
Just the
The
ego eye.
ego is
Okay.
using the five senses, very general.
Yeah.
I'm saying that this body is sensing something outside of itself. Now
Yeah.
we are talking about remembrance. When does remembrance start? Oh, I'm at a certain age. I see that my life, I am either just settling because I can't really make radical changes in my life. We
Hmm.
talk a lot in this lingo of how do you raise your frequency? How do you change your life? The only way you can do that
Hmm.
is that you slowly turn your senses from looking out into first in, up, and then once you actually discover that you're not this only this body mechanism, that there's so many layers to
Hmm.
you,
Hmm.
then you start bringing in the soul light into this vessel, and that is actually what changes your
Hmm.
reality. Um, and as I said to you, the only way that I saw personally, and I saw it in my clients and other practitioners' lives, the only thing you can truly do in order to radically uproot something, or even just manage, if you can say, "Oh, I'm managing my fear," wow,
Hmm.
that's a huge contention. So the only way I can advise is to dare to look inside and be with yourself,
Hmm.
and then the fastest way to do that is through the
Hmm.
spinal fluid. Why? Because when you start,
Hmm.
and spinal fluid fluctuation is
Hmm.
also the backdrop of it is the kundalini shakti,
Yeah.
and that's an age-old science. Again, it's not
Yeah.
woo. A lot of Tantra communities use this in
Hmm.
quite improper ways. But when you start consciously tapping into that divine force that's in you, the
Right.
fluid starts naturally rising instead of constantly falling. Falling would mean you use your senses to project outward. When it starts rising, your senses turn inward, and then you, depending on what chakra, what energy center you can feel into, as the fluid is rising, you're actually purifying your sense of reality.
Right.
How many times, and I'm going to stop this thought pattern. How many times do we hear that what we see outside is just a reflection of what is going on inside? And it's,
Yeah.
I'm a cliche, yes, but it's really
Sure,
simple
it's true.
truth.
Yeah. It's a mirror of
It's
your, yeah.
there.
It's a mirror. Yeah.
And then some of us who are hearing this, we would be feeling even more victimized. You can understand that.
Hmm.
But you can also just start daring, because what I feel in most of humanity and my clients, that it takes a while to even dare to make that turn inward, because
Yeah.
there's so much layering of your true being, this layering of of all the conditioning, all of the experiences that have layered over your true essence. And you
Yeah.
need to, like, some of the times you have access to your essence, but it's not abiding. It doesn't
Yeah.
stay.
Yeah, exactly. And when we say that, what you see outside, whatever that is happening is a reflection, or it's a mirror, it's an echo of what you are putting out. People that are going through suffering, it's very hard uh, for them to hear this, and especially when you have that sense of that I'm the victim.
Yeah.
So when you are in that state that I have been victimized, and how could you say that whatever is happening to me, I deserve it? That's not what we are saying. What we are saying is that you may not be able to control external factors. All you need to do, go inward and utilize your inner power, your inner force that you have, whatever terminology you want to use. Uh, the answer is inside, not outside. The change that you want to see, you have to see that change inside of you so that external factors, all fear mongering, all the injustice, whatever that is bothering you from outside, you have no control over that, but you have 100% control of what is happening in your inner world. So, inner work is something that every single person has to start with. Uh, mm, I would say right now, interestingly, most of the cases that are approaching me for consultation, uh, mm, it's fascinating that how they are saying that I am afraid. I have so much fear. This is a common pattern. It has become a common thing in the cases that I'm receiving right now.
Okay.
Like, yeah, and the people that are actually admitting this is something that maybe 10 years ago it was people they didn't want to confess, but right now I have young people in their 20s that I say, what is the chief complaint? What is it exactly that is bothering you? And it's not cholesterol, it's not hypertension. What they're saying is fear. I have so much fear. I cannot sleep at night. And I say, do you know what is causing this fear? And they say, I cannot put my finger on it. I cannot exactly identify what is causing this fear. But for the past 2, 3 years, I have this trauma and this sense of trauma and fear that I cannot work. I heard this from Uber drivers, from construction workers, from uh, normal people, everyday people that they have to go out and face the challenges of life. But fear is dismantling, it's really not allowing them to carry on and enjoy life.
Well, to carry on the same way they have been carrying on for many years,
Yeah.
whether you were even like 30, you have carried on in a certain manner. And
Mhm,
I would maybe look at it from a spirit, from the point of view of spirit.
mhm,
I think this fear that's coming up en masse
mhm.
for everyone, actually, is trying to arrive at a turning point, a point where humanity is just receiving a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And what is happening is actually the light quotient, how much light is actually seeping into our planet has changed. It also means that the frequency that we are experiencing right now, I mean, just look at the Schumann
Oh
resonance.
yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it's most of the time when the Schumann
Yeah.
resonance is very high, people are just so anxious. They have to placate their anxiety through a lot of, like, I just see people and they're all on either marijuana or some kind of suppressant, yes?
Yeah.
And so this light is rising, guys. It's not going
Hmm.
to stop. It's
Right.
And the only reason it's rising, it's because it's asking of you to remember
Hmm.
that you are this you are made in the image of God, to say it very
Right on.
simply.
Right
Okay?
on. Yeah.
And you don't have to believe in God. I'm not even saying that. But notice that everything in the cosmos works
Yeah.
perfectly. Your body works perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
It's just you have this psychology where you think you are this individual in this body, having this history, this relationship,
Hmm.
and you're completely zooming in on that reality. And and this, if you are caught in the flame of wanting to know the truth, the Sufis call it,
Hmm.
that spark in your own heart that starts becoming so adamantly, like it's almost like a flashing, that you need to know who you
Hmm.
are. Because listen, I love this analogy. So you have the circumference of a circle,
Yeah.
okay?
Hmm.
And then you have the center of the circle.
Hmm.
And the center of the circle is in your heart space, which is pure uh scalar 0 point, uh the highest consciousness that is your God spark. It's in your heart space, as the
Hmm.
Sufis teach, and not just the Sufis.
Hmm.
And what we do, what we are taught in this civilization, the
Hmm.
human civilization, is that, oh, just run around in the periphery, and that's your life. You eat, you drink, you copulate, you get married, you get a job, and then you die.
And
And
that's how you
that's your
get
life.
into the loop.
And that's what your mother did, father did, your
Yeah.
grandparents and their parents, and
Yeah.
that is called life. Hi. And this is humanity, and we pride ourselves to be so evolved there.
Hmm.
I think our evolution starts from that thirst of finding out who you truly are. That's the only way to evolve. Is
That's
it
right.
going to be a walk in the park? No, because you're called to see, oh, well, all this fear, actually, we didn't mention this. The basic operational characteristic of your ego is fear.
So that it can be in charge.
Yes.
Yeah. That's so true. Yeah. Exactly. And as a result of that, you're always in a state of duality.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you see, you can just, you see, yogis teach that this world is not real.
Hmm.
Thus, fear is not real. You're not real. But we
Hmm.
can't start from there. We
Hmm.
have to start from, okay, there's a problem. I'm not
Yeah.
happy, or I'm anxious all the time,
Yeah.
or I absolutely, like, I have my clients, and I just see that they're in their 40s or even 30s, and they have absolutely no joy in their life. Because when you live in the domain of
Hmm.
your mind, which is just usually identification with the body and the senses,
Yeah.
looking outward, after a certain time, like, there's no novelty. There's just looping, running around in the circumference. I'm like, yes. And I not try, I teach them how to move back into that spinal fluid, become conscious. And
Hmm.
then what you do is you're lifting
Hmm.
your vital force,
Hmm.
which is the Shakti force,
Hmm.
into these centers. And depending on where you got to, hopefully it gets to the heart, and then you just enter into a higher state of being altogether.
Hmm.
That overrides the dullness of your human experience. Because I mean, even your clients can say, oh, there's a problem. We can medicate it to a certain degree, but ideally the only way you can manifest meditating is to turn inward and find your inner guru, your inner teacher.
Yeah,
It's not
absolutely.
me,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
not Iman, it's not Sadhguru, it's nobody, it's you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned override, you know,
Right, yes. Mhm.
yeah, and this is a nice keyword. Let me share something interesting I learned. Our DNA, every single DNA in our body, they are each single one of them, they're just like a library of books. And each book within the DNA, within this library, has the information, the templates, blueprints, all the specifications, and all the work instructions on how to duplicate, uh, what to do next, how to rejuvenate, all the work instructions that your body needs to operate. They are all coded in this book of information that you have in your DNA as a library, right? However, not all books get to open at the same time. So body select certain books within the DNA to open and use the code, use the work instructions in that book, depending on what your body needs at that moment.
But would you
Okay?
also say, as you're describing this to me, would you say
hmm
that also what the body would resort to is also
hmm
very much dependent because the DNA is like an antenna and it's like catching on to frequency. And it depends, like
100%.
when the frequency
Yeah.
is low, then those are the mappings that it can work with. Or if it's higher,
Yes.
then it's a different one.
Yeah. So one good example is chronic stress or chronic fear. Let's say if I put myself into a chronic state of fear, anxiety, stress, which they all have roots in fear. I mean, fear is feeding them. What happened is that in DNA, they're gonna open the book of inflammatory responses. So those proteins or those gene expressions, they're gonna get opened up to develop an inflammatory response because
Which
uh,
is also there to create homeostasis. Like it's
yeah.
even not against you. It's
Oh
just,
no,
yeah,
that's the
exactly.
only way to help. Okay, so they want to help, but that become a chronic state, so you develop a chronic state of inflammation. So then your immune system become chronically cooked, overcooked. So, and that will create so many other diseases because inflammation is the root cause of so many other discomforts. And when you are in a state of harmony, when you are in a state of gratitude, you are in a state of meditation, just calm and relax, those DNA books get open that promote longevity, ease, and happiness and calmness. So we are actually programming, coding our DNA what is needed. And this happens second by second, like it's not static, it's happening all the time. So by uh, acknowledging who we are and that we have a pharmacy inside us, our body is so intelligently designed that it can heal itself as long as that you align and you allow the higher self, the real self, to be in charge rather than the ego self that always wants to create that state of duality. And as a result of that, you have that fear. And the only tool in your toolbox is to be in charge and control so that by that illusion of that, oh, I'm in charge and I want to control the situation or control that person, my partner or my children, then that is going to create more suffering for yourself and for the others, and it's basically toxic.
I fully agree. And
Yeah.
and I would share very quickly how it happened with me. I used to be an academic,
hmm
really read millions of books and always reaching for the next one because it wasn't enough. And I've noticed that I was getting more and more unhappy, and then I ran to Iman, and when I was diagnosed with a chronic or whatever it was called according to allopathic medicine, and I believed in the diagnosis. And I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna die. Hi, Iman, but just throw me something because I have this much hope. And I completely like was burying myself.
Mhm.
And that was such a key point in my life because I mean, talking about fear,
Yeah.
I had this attitude towards it that, oh, I got a diagnosis. I am not worth it. I'm not valued according to God, and I need to die. And I went to Iman because I was still kind of hanging on to a little thread. And I also went to other specialists, and I just went there because I was told to. And then I think that started germinating that remembrance. Sometimes in the scriptures it says you fully need to give up. So it's an amazing state to
You
be.
get to the rock bottom. Yeah.
You get to rock bottom,
Yeah.
then you start following that little spark that is in your heart, and it's leading you, leading you, leading you. And I came to my teacher.
Hmm.
He lives in Malta.
Hmm.
He's not Maltese, doesn't matter.
Hmm.
And I was this like
Hmm.
victim woman who is very knowledgeable, thinks she
Hmm.
knows everything, but very unhappy. Nothing works, ruined,
Hmm.
most of my relationships.
Hmm.
I mean, not alone, but with the partner, we ruined it. Um, and I said to him, "Yeah, I just don't feel like doing this. Like, I absolutely don't feel like my life means anything. Like, I'm not waiting for the next meal, or even like I just came to Malta and like to a new country and looking around, I wasn't that interested."
Hmm.
And he says, "Yeah, congratulations. It's a good place to be. And now you can start to help."
Wow.
Because he realized, and we
Hmm.
are all amazingly unique souls. When we remember, we can all step into this service in this way or that way.
Yeah. So do you agree that suffering that you went through was actually a grace?
Yes, yes, because it was the only thing that could bend my ego.
Yeah, that's an inner calling. That was your inner calling that, you know what, you need to unlearn to get out of this loop.
And he was very gracious, my teacher, because he was fighting. I mean, when you're an academic, you have a very strong mind structure
Oh,
because
yeah.
we're taught to, oh, we're the ones who know, we're the ones
Yeah.
who write books.
Right.
It took a long time
Hmm.
for him to deconstruct that impulse of the ego that I know.
Wow.
And
Wow.
the only thing I can tell everyone, and Adyashanti says that he's an amazing American teacher, spiritual teacher, or the teacher of truth. And he says, you know what? On this path, when you're truly starting to look inside, just know that nothing that the mind has a concept of, even what your path needs to look like, is a lie. Like nothing that your mind can conceive of on this path is it. And
Yeah.
if you can truly have that openness, like the Sufis call it, the Sufis call it the pathless path
Yeah.
of the flight of the birds.
Yeah. Right on. Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine if humanity opened up to that level of love? Because, the only way to do this, and even this personality here is lacking full trust.
Hmm.
Because if we do not have that complete embodiment of trusting our God self. The God is not outside somewhere and we trust in that. No, we have an experiential embodiment of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Then there is no place for fear.
Hmm.
And then we don't need control. And then we don't need to give up our divine power.
That's right.
Because look at the game: fear, control, and then you have innate power, and you have to give it up because
Hmm.
there's a bargain. If you have control, then you give up your power.
Hmm.
You're curbing, you're limiting your power. So this is the game we're playing as humanity. We create wars, we create internal wars and external wars, thinking, oh, through our free will, we can do that and we can succeed. Well, we can, but do you want to succeed and be right or be one with your truth, which is love,
Hmm.
wisdom, and unity?
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah. Amazing.
I can give everyone a very
Yeah.
initial, very basic practice. If you can truly open yourself up to it, whenever you have a moment at work, even in the chaotic home with children, or you're alone, zoom into your body. Bring your conscious intelligence into this vessel because fear resides in the mind field, which is you actually shoot out of your body vessel. You just
Hmm.
shoot out, and
Yeah.
here you're just entertaining the myriad of thoughts. Now, you consciously, like you can even imagine that you're pulling your soul light into this body and just start feeling from your head all the way to your toes, the whole body, many times in a day, 5 at least. You will see that that automatically is changing your anxiety. Automatically, it's lowering your anxiety. And feel, ask the question, can I feel my toes? Because when I started this, I couldn't feel my toes.
Hmm.
And once your consciousness comes and embodies this body vessel, goodness, that's where you're connecting to that inner intelligence that it knows much more. It's a much
Hmm.
higher technology. You want your latest
Oh,
iPhone, don't you?
wow. Oh,
Don't you
yeah.
want your latest iPhone? So
Yeah.
your latest iPhone is actually in your spinal fluid and connecting that with your consciousness. And then you start slowly becoming conscious of your energy and conducting that life from the center point instead of running in the circumference.
Yeah. And this, from the scientific aspect, it also start activating your DNA. You have the upper hand. You are the bigger hand behind the whole orchestra. You conduct the orchestra. You teach your DNA. You do the coding basically, instead of your ego being in charge of coding your DNA based on hormonal reactions. Your higher self, your real you, be in charge, get in charge of programming and coding and overriding your DNA. So the whole body, the frequency of whole body get harmonized.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And that is, like you have so many hacks. Oh, the hack of how to raise your vibration or
yeah,
frequency. Well, it's you can raise your frequency for a short while with your instant gratificatory processes. Yes, you can have sex, or you can have food, or you can have this or that, even have drugs, that's fine. But then just see the outcome of that, because
yeah. Mhm.
whirling in the loop of the desire kingdom.
Yeah,
I'm not saying desires are bad, but most people think, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, and I don't want this. So it's like constantly yes and no's.
Hmm.
And that is the realm of your mind. And just step back because the yes and no's will never stop.
Oh
And
yeah.
that is equated, I mentioned before, to
Yeah.
animal life. An animal, like like when you kick it, it bites you, correct? It
Yeah.
doesn't want it.
Yeah.
It's okay, it's normal. But we need to become, we are the only species here on this planet who are able to self-reflect. Otherwise, we are exactly the same as the animal kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes they even have a higher inner intelligence. If we don't evoke that intelligence within us, it's the same
True.
animal
True.
living.
Yeah.
And for the future of our children, for the future of this planet, I think that that is the first step to become a conscious being.
Yeah. Absolutely. For sure. Well, this was very beneficial. It was amazing to have this time, and thank you. Uh, Very fascinating points and easy to follow. Everyone can do the things that you advised. So hopefully, people can benefit from this session. And if we see, if we get any positive feedback, we can definitely share more sessions.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. You know that the light that is within us is going to align with the light in our surrounding.
sure. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Iman,
Oh,
for even instigating this and
likewise. Thank you.
sharing. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll
Thank
be in touch. Thanks,
Yes,
Esther. Yeah.
thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.